listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEG Talk Radio.com. Click the live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV. YouTube, WCEG Network. I'm Dr. Wanzo, your host for the next hour for Mind Matters. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community and life into you. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG _talk _radio and at WCEG Network. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Mind Matters, where we discuss relevant mental health issues. I'm your host, Dr. Cassandra Wanzo, a psychiatrist practicing in Atlanta for the past 30 years. Like I said, I was 2 when I started. Our co-host is Norman Carter Jr., a retired Philadelphia police corporal. He's written a book that's always relevant to these times, The Long Blue Walk, given what's just happened in Memphis. My Journey as a Philly Cop. It's available on Amazon and it's always timely. So please check it out on Amazon. He also hosts his own show on WCEG entitled Issues and Answers on Mondays at 4 p.m. It's a very informative show. Hi, Norm.
Hello, how are you, doctor?
Our co-host is Ms. Shavett Athouris, who's been a registered nurse for over 20 years. She was a nursing professor for 5 years at a university in Atlanta, Georgia. She's the marketing director with Surge 365 Travel Company. She's the CEO of Pyramia, which are all natural products that provide safe alternatives to alcohol-based sanitizers. She's administrative director for a nonprofit where they help develop and mentor youth. You can visit the website at www.theosmovement.org. Welcome, Shavett.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our topic this evening is Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, a mental health perspective. Again, Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, a mental health perspective. So last night I was watching Jimmy Kimmel, I always watch his show, and they did a cartoon parody of the freshman congressman from New York, George Santos. It was called Santos Okio. It was a takeoff on Pinocchio. As you remember, Pinocchio was the puppet whose nose grew every time he lied.
Right.
George Santos has been described as a pathological liar, with his lies being exposed on almost a daily basis. There are too many to completely enumerate them all, but I will cite some of them. Of course, these are all fabrications. On his resume, he claims that he graduated in the top 1% of his class at Baruch College in New York and earned an MBA at NYU. He never graduated from any college. He claimed that his mother died twice, once from injuries at the World Trade Center and another from cancer. He said she was in the South Tower on September 11th and died as a result of injuries. She was actually living in Brazil at the time. He's also stated to many groups that he's Jewish and that his grandparents survived the Holocaust. His grandparents are from Brazil and they're Catholic. He said that he lost 4 employees in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida. That was not true. He said that he survived an assassination attempt. Not true. He said that he was mugged in broad daylight on 5th Avenue while he was on his way to pay over $2,000 in back rent for an eviction case. Well, so he never made it, and there's no police account of such a robbery, but he claims he was robbed in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue of $2,000 while he was on his way to pay the money, for his eviction case. He said that he worked for Goldman Sachs and Citicorp. Not true. He claimed that he founded an investment firm in 2021 that made millions of dollars. As it turns out, it was a Ponzi scheme. He claims that he owns more than a dozen rental properties in New York. He owns nothing. He denied that he was a drag queen in Brazil, but numerous pictures and accounts have come forward showing that he was a drag queen under the name of Katara Ravache, and that he even competed in drag queen beauty pageants. Brazilian authorities have accused him of stealing a checkbook and fraudulently spending $700. They had not been able to locate him, but thanks to his being elected, they now have located him and they're reopening the case. So what is lying and when does it become pathological? Lying really is a common feature of social interactions among humans. They even claim that they found that animals lie. I don't know how they proved that, like monkeys. They said monkeys lie. I don't know how they proved that. I'd like to see those studies.
I know, right?
Yeah. Most people tell lies occasionally. There are many reasons why people might lie, such as avoiding offending someone they care about, a white lie, protecting themselves from a perceived threat, feelings of shame or guilt, avoiding conflict or negative emotions, acting out of impulse, making themselves look better, avoiding punishment, and creating justifications. Pathological lying, known as mythomania or pseudologia fantastica, that was coined in the 1800s, is the chronic behavior of compulsive or habitual lying, which is unlike the occasional white lie that people tell to avoid hurting someone's feelings or to get out of trouble. A pathological liar can lie for no apparent reason. Pathological lying can occur because of low self-esteem, a false sense of self. People who lie pathologically may want to view those lies positively, making things up to make themselves look better. It's their desire to create a false sense of self. It can indicate that they are really unhappy with themselves. So the distinguishing feature of a pathological lie, it does not have an apparent motive. So I said, we'll get into some of the underlying conditions that can cause lying, like some of the mental health conditions later. I know Normie said you did some research.
I did, and I just learned so much. It's probably, we don't have enough time to talk about how much I learned.
Let's go for it. Maybe do another show.
Yeah. But it's one of the things I learned is how do you recognize a pathological liar, which I think is, okay. I didn't realize it was a mental disorder until this program. But people who embellish lies with extensive details, telling dramatic and highly unlikely stories, appearing anxious while talking, getting defensive. Ooh, Donald Trump, constantly changing their story, being vague when questioned, lying about something even when there is no reason. I'm a police officer, seeming concerned when being caught in a lie, feeling a high when they get away with lying, passing off a story someone else told as their own, and acting in ways that don't match their words. And the reason I mentioned police officer and Donald Trump is because when you look at it, Herschel Walker, just like George Santos, he lied about being at the top of his class. Also, he did not graduate. He lied about being a police officer. He lied about having a company with 800 employees.
Yes.
Crazy. Donald Trump has that, I forget, they've tracked like tens of thousands of lies that he told, unnecessary lies. And it's just that, in my opinion, we're developing either a high tolerance or an affinity in this country for people who are pathological liars. And that's dangerous when these people can make decisions about whether or not we go to war.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. And then Norm and then Doc, I also did a little research myself because this topic is very, very interesting. And yeah, it really is. I've learned a lot. But basically it was saying that a pathological liar oftentimes does that because they want to have their way. They want to get their way. It says they have very little regard for or respect for others' rights or how other people feel. Very little respect, and also oftentimes very manipulative or cunning. Yeah, manipulative and cunning, so to speak. Very, very interesting. Then it also says that from early childhood, that is often associated with as a coping mechanism, starting way back from early childhood. And I thought that was very interesting as well. But then it ends up turning into mental health disorder like antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah.
And also it figures into some abusive relationships. You can gravitate into that.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned narcissistic personality. So in narcissism, people to begin with have an exaggerated sense of self. So the primary, I guess, the biggest categories where you see lying, pathological lying, is narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial. So they, as Shavett said, they act in manipulative and deceitful ways, regardless of the consequences or outcome. Also, you can see it in borderline personality because they already have an unstable sense of self and difficulty regulating their emotions. You can see pathological lying in people with obsessive compulsive disorder. They may lie to mask their compulsive symptoms so their family and friends won't worry about them. So they think that their family and friends won't understand their symptoms, so they're not honest about their experiences. Another time we see lying is in malingering. Malingering is the intentional fabrication of medical symptoms for the purpose of external gain. So when I used to work in the prison, we used to see that all the time. The inmates would swallow toothbrushes, razor blades, whatever they could swallow so they get a chance to get out of the jail and get a trip to the hospital.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Substance abuse disorders and impulse control disorders, they can develop elaborate lies to mask their symptoms, particularly when their symptoms are stigmatized by society. And this was interesting. People with frontotemporal dementia, a sign of that can be pathological lying. So a certain type of dementia affects the frontal temporal region. They can also develop pathological lying, agitation, loss of insight, inappropriate behaviors. So that's something to think of. The lying can be due to a certain type of dementia. Then they have factitious disorders. I don't know if you all are familiar with Munchausen syndrome.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So in that, it's a condition where the person does things to pretend like they have a physical or mental illness when they don't. And then you see it like when the mother does it with the child, like creating symptoms, and they call that Munchausen's by proxy. So they fabricate all kinds of elaborate medical symptoms for themselves or the child.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. Scary stuff.
It really is.
And it seems like a little, yeah, he lies a little. Well, that it can evolve into something that's actually major and dangerous, because they say a pathological liar not only lies frequently, but may feel the compulsion to do so, even when that compulsion puts them in danger.
Exactly.
Yeah, they just don't care.
But you said it's scary. Yeah.
And then it talked about compulsive lying, that is telling the truth is becomes awkward and uncomfortable, where lying becomes very comfortable.
Mhm.
Lying feels right and telling the truth feels wrong. I thought that was very interesting. Very interesting.
That's the bizarro world where everything is turned upside down. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
fortunately, Herschel didn't get elected. Can you imagine if he were elected to office? Oh,
But here's the problem. In spite of his proven lies, here in Georgia, he'd had well over 1 million votes.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, in spite of tens of thousands of lies, had 74 million votes.
Crazy.
So, as I said, this is a problem of perception by the people living in our country, that they're developing a high tolerance for this. And there are going to be consequences down the road. We saw the insurrection on television. The whole world saw it, yet you have Republicans, and I hate to say it, but they're guilty. They were denying. It was saying, no, that was just a visit. It wasn't that bad. Not that that's pathological lying, but the point is that we're developing a tolerance for it. Exactly. And far too many people are accepting of it. And it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous.
Yeah. And then I thought it was interesting where it talked about even some of the obvious classic signs of someone lying, where it said they avoid eye contact. They might break out into that sweat, or tripping over their words and excuse me, start rambling. That I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I was watching an interview of former Vice President Pence recently, and I think it was last year. They were asking him, or earlier this year, or last year, they were asking him about if he had any classified documents in his home. And he's
Wait, did
no.
Stumble.
Stumbling, rambling.
He did stumble. He did stumble.
Either it's an easy yes or no. Either you know or you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. He did stumble. You're right. He did.
Says avoiding eye contact, rambling and stumbling over their words, or sometimes they may even break out into a sweat.
Yeah. One thing I learned many years ago in my career as a police officer, because we had a class on interviewing and interrogation skills, because they're two different things. But picking up body language and picking up on voices, and those are the things that they look for when people are lying. One of the things, eye contact, stumbling over words, and basically getting, I always say that to be a consummate liar is a lot of work, because you have to remember your lies. Yes. You don't have to really remember the truth, but you really got to remember lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
What you say, like the consequences, like now Santos, he's a freshman congressman, and he's going to be appointed to some committee, which is really scary that, that he's going to have this power and authority to some committee. Now, I don't understand how I know the Republicans won his vote, but still that's scary to see him being assigned to some committee with who knows what kind of sensitive information, with the ability to make, decisions like that.
Yeah, he's on two committees.
Yes? What committees?
He's on two. One of them has to do with business administration.
Oh, that's small business. So it means he would oversee PPP and all of
right.
that.
Yep. And I forget what the other one was, but the other consummate liar that we have in there, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's on the Homeland Security.
Yes.
So again, Americans need to realize you need to forget your party affiliation when it comes to our legislators, and just look at them, and also look at yourself. What are you willing to accept? Even in our families, what are we know that in our families, we have people who have problems with the truth. And that can be dangerous. We had a case here in Georgia just this past weekend. Don't mean to be running off the mouth, but father calls the police department and says, the rescue EMT, and says that my child fell down the steps and hurt his head. So they said, and we need to go to the hospital. So they said, okay, we'll send somebody over. They sent somebody, but they didn't rush. And then when they get there, they find the kid was shot in the head.
Yes.
So these people who have a proclivity for lying present a danger to us all. And we need to be cognizant of that, and at some point learn, I'm sure we'll get into it later, about how to deal with these type of people.
So did the child survive? Did the child survive?
He is in I think he's on induced a coma or something like that.
Do you have any idea how this child got shot, or who shot the child?
Well, the problem with it is that the gun is missing. And there was another person in the apartment. That other person, it's in a hotel. That other person is missing, but there's a bullet hole in the ceiling. So they know that the kid was shot. So both the father and the girlfriend, whoever who was they're under arrest and they're being held without bond.
Wow.
But these type of people are dangerous.
So when they called 911, they said the child had fallen.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. But when
actually it was
a gunshot,
a gun involved.
Yeah.
So they were lying to protect themselves.
What makes you think that professional first responders would not be able to tell a gunshot from a fall?
Wow.
They get to the point to where they're not even thinking.
Yeah.
And then they get in a panic, so they have to say what they can to try to get themselves out of a mind.
I always think, when I think about this topic, I don't know whether you guys watch Saturday Night Live, but
I do.
But John Lovitz used to have a character who was a compulsive liar, and his response was when he got caught was, that's the ticket.
Right.
So, yes. Same thing. They don't. Obviously, that's what their thought process is in their mind, but lying is just much too convenient, and we just have to be aware of people, not only in our legislatures and government, but also people who are around us. When you get into situations of, as you mentioned, a type of dementia, that's a sign from an older people that, okay, maybe we need some intervention here.
Exactly.
Or drug addicts, same thing.
Wow.
And
wow. Well, I know I was, in doing my research also, and it was talking about, can a pathological liar really love someone? Can they really, love somebody besides themselves? And, it was talking about it's oftentimes difficult for them to have like a honest and healthy relationship because they lie so much.
Yes.
It causes so much stress and strain on their relationship, and so much, hurt to their partner, that it's hard for them to love someone else because of the lying, the pathological lying.
Yeah.
And I can see that. I'm from the old school. You tell me, something, and I just naturally believe you.
Exactly.
But I'm from the old school. But nowadays it's like you don't know if people are telling you the truth or if they're lying to you.
Yes.
Things aren't like in the old days when we were growing up.
I like that. I know in the legal community, there's a Latin phrase, and I can't remember how to say it in Latin, but what it means is when you have a person on trial for a crime or one thing, the phrase is, if you lie about one thing, you'll lie about anything. So that's how I've told people who had legitimate, and I saw this in real time, legitimate complaints against police, legitimate complaints. And then they get advice from somebody who tells them to embellish the story a little bit. Well, when you begin to embellish, which is another word for lying, about certain issues of it, there are professional interviewers and interrogators who can pick that up. Mm-hmm. And once and I saw a terrible case when I was a police officer. I wrote about it in my book, where this caused a case to be thrown out. And it was not only in my book, but someone who I met because of my book, who was an actual victim of that, tells the same story, which I didn't know about when I wrote my book. His book came out a little bit later. But it's like people who lie about simple stuff will just lie about anything and everything. Mm-hmm. And then you can't believe in everything that they tell you. You have to test it. And especially when you have something, when you're getting into dementia, eating disorders. I'm looking here, major depressive disorders, mild non-cognitive, neurocognitive disorders. We talked about that. Post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia. Yeah, I'm just can go on and on. There's a ton of them that they can be involved in. And they, as I said, they present a danger to themselves, danger to relationships, danger to coworkers.
Well, lying itself is not itself a DSM-5 diagnosis, but it's but it is the basis of many disorders. So the way you treat it is like treating whatever the underlying condition is. You have to treat that.
And then I think about Munchausen, because you mentioned that too, didn't you, Doc?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think about Eminem. Every time I hear that word, I think about Eminem, and like you're saying, it's like making up the lies or making up things that are wrong with their child or their baby.
Wait, Eminem was a victim of that, or what?
His mother.
Oh no, I didn't know what happened with Eminem.
Yeah, he has a song that he wrote about it.
Oh no, I didn't know about that.
He had a song that he wrote about his mom, and yeah, she has Munchausen, and she would do things that would make him to be ill.
Like what? I didn't know about any of that.
Just different things. I can't remember exactly the specifics of it, but yeah, he wrote a song about it, and it was where when she kept going to the hospital for the same thing, he was, fine when he was there. They get him okay, then all of a sudden he's ill again. So they put him in a room with a camera and saw some of the things that she was doing. Yeah, it's really deep. But it's sad, but yeah, that's just one to add to all the ones that Norm was saying,
Okay.
And the damage that it can do to children.
Yes.
And
yes.
There's things that because I've seen this, is that there are things that we can do to children when they're young, in their formative years, that will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
And that's sad, and I don't think enough adults think about that. And I think that's another reason why we have these. We're raising a generation of very violent children.
That 6-year-old that shot his teacher.
Yes.
That was amazing. I could not believe it. I really could not believe it.
Yeah. And what makes a 6-year-old think that that's right?
But then too, you have to think about their upbringing, their surroundings, what type of support they have, what they're seeing at home. Is it a lot of arguing and bickering and fighting and the abusive, relationship in the home? Because obviously they're seeing something that's, causing them to behave this way.
Yep. And then there was a thing on the news this morning about the fact that several teachers had warned the administrators about this kid. That kid had a gun. There were other children who were complaining about this kid having a gun.
But he showed another kid and threatened.
Yeah. Yes.
Kid and told anybody.
And the administrators ignored them all.
Yeah, that's not normal at all for 6 years old.
Mm-mm.
That is so not normal.
No.
That child has gone through a lot so far in its little lifetime, and they're going to need a lot of therapy.
Intervention definitely required.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
I don't know what is going on with the child, but the parents in their statement, they claimed that he had some kind of, the term they used was acute disability that required them being in the class every day. I don't know what that was about, but that's what they claimed.
No.
They're making up something.
No. Again,
That's
here
what
we
they're
go
doing.
back to lying.
Yeah.
Exactly. Lying. That they're supposed to be there in the class with them every day because it was an acute disability.
No.
Yeah, lying. Yeah.
No. Where did the gun come from?
Let's
If he has an acute disability, why was the gun within reach of the child?
Well, they're
Exactly.
they're saying that the gun was secured. They said it was
Where did he get it from? I never heard where he got it.
It's the mother's gun. The
Oh,
mother's
it was. So did they do anything to the mother? Because a lot of times they go after the parents.
Well, I've heard talk about them possibly charging the mother, but I haven't heard specifically that they're talking about it. But the parents are claiming that the gun was secured. Obviously not, but they're claiming it was secured.
A 6-year-old can't get to a gun that's like,
Obviously,
I know
it
about
wasn't
secured.
if he got a hold of it. It wasn't secure enough.
Right.
And then and he did threaten to set another teacher on fire.
Wow.
Well, it says a mother is suing the school.
Right.
I'm sorry, the teacher. The teacher.
Yes. Teacher,
yes.
Yes. And that's a good suit. I think that she'll win. She'll prevail.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sad to see that the child was African American.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think, I've said for years, and this is probably watching too much Forensic Files and ID and crime shows.
I watch Forensic Files.
I've said for many, many years that in this day and time, in the age we live in, I think that all schools need to have some type of, not just police officers or security, but they need to have some type of one entry point, and they go through a metal detector or something with their book bags and things like that, so you can detect knives, guns, weapons. It's not, I don't think it's good for kids now with all the shootings and problems we've had at schools, for them not to have and put those type of things in place. We always react after the fact, after something has happened or after people have died. Now we want to implement things. It's almost like me being a nurse and you go to the doctor once a year for preventive measures to catch something early, to get ahead of whatever might be coming, like a cancer or whatever you want it in the beginning stages. So you go once a year to your primary doctor for a visit, right? But we don't do that in a lot of other areas, and that's one of them. We don't, a lot of them, schools don't do those preventive measures to prevent something, from happening. We want to react to after the fact.
Exactly. So I was thinking probably before this, maybe junior high and high school, but obviously you need it in grade school too.
Yeah. Middle school. Yeah.
Grade school. This is grade school.
That was elementary, right?
Yes. Yeah, elementary school.
Yeah, we there are things that are on TV now that we're exposing, or I'm sure exposing the children to, because it's no matter what time of day you tune in, you're going to find something. And if the parents are exposing children to things that adults should be watching, this is how they come up with these things. It has little to do with some manufactured disability in the child, because children don't grow up thinking about, well, if I get angry with somebody, I'm going to go shoot them. That's a learned behavior.
It is.
That's a learned behavior.
Norm, when I was growing up and something came on television that I wasn't supposed to see, my mother or father would cover my whole entire eyes like this. And I'm like, stop, I want to see. No, just give it a minute. And then all of a sudden they remove their eyes and I can watch it again. It was just, I used to hate it. But, nowadays, I don't know, maybe they're just not monitoring what their kids are watching.
Yeah, well, there's so much. There's
Now they
just
can
so
watch
much
it on
now.
their phones and just everywhere,
Yeah.
So
TikTok or wherever. I mean,
yeah. Totally different the days we live in right now. Totally different. And then going back to the lying, it was, I was looking at kind of what do you do? So I don't know, I guess once you get to that, Doc, because it was talking about what do you do if you know that someone is lying all the time? Like, what's the solution? What do you do?
Go ahead.
Well, it said that you can call them out. When you catch them in a lie, you can let them know that, hey, that doesn't make sense. Sounds like a lie, but you got to keep in mind that, you want to stay calm and not get into confrontations with them.
Exactly.
So calling them out, don't debate with them, because that could get into a sticky situation, because they're living in their little dream world of lies, and that's, what they do all the time. So if it gets to that point, just, stay calm, don't argue with them. And then you can always walk away if it does get too heated, just kind of walk away from it so that you don't get into, confrontations and all. But you can also recommend in a nice way that you're just trying to help them, and you want them to know that you are aware of that, sometimes when they tell a lie, and they can always, seek help for that. I know, again, people don't want to seek professional help or see a, counselor, or can't go to somebody to help them, but that's something that can kind of help them through that. Otherwise, they'll go to their grave doing the same thing for the rest of them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I found something that was interesting. They said for some people that the lying, becomes habitual and automatic. And it said that telling lies can activate the risk and reward center in the brain. That the thrill of telling a lie and the sense of accomplishment a compulsive lie feels when they've gotten away with it can become addictive. So it's more like addiction.
Yes. They I was reading maybe the same article that they get a high from it.
Exactly.
When they get away with it. Yeah. It's sad. And I go back to that John Lovitz character. He would, every time he said that's the ticket, he was grinning. Hey, I got you. But it's but everybody's not going to be smiling and with accomplishments. And I think it's dangerous, in my own life, and again, I hate to keep referring to it, but it's in my book where I was involved with a pathological liar who at some point used those lies to take them to people who were in law enforcement and put me through a whole bunch of misery that eventually evolved into my having to move from Philadelphia to Georgia. It got to be dangerous, and when you can't run to people in authority about people who are where you can prove that they're lying or prove that they are a danger, and those people in authority are not listening, so that's a problem.
You weren't able to disprove the lies. I mean, they wouldn't listen.
Well, no, the problem was that I could disprove the lies. I had video, audio evidence from telephones where threats were made, but that wasn't the issue with them. The issue was doing whatever it could to victimize me because I had exposed improper behavior by some of these police officers in the past. And they were aware of the fact that for my entire career, I documented everything. I have documents that go back to almost to my rookie years. So I just don't, it's not that I'm a hoarder, but certain things I know that are important. And when it came to this issue, there were just a ton of mistruths, not only definitely by the this particular woman, but she had people covering up for her, and those people were in authority. And it got to be very, very, very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And to the point where I even sought legal help. And when there was no help coming from them, thanks to my children, they offered me an option that really made a lot of sense, was you need to get out of that city. And once I moved, I stayed away from Philadelphia for several years, even though I have family there. I was just not comfortable going back. But yeah, so people who lie can cause severe harm. And what seems to them like a little white lie can damage people. That's why they say it damages relationships.
Yeah.
But there's treatment. There's treatment. You can call Dr. Wanzo at 1-800-HELP-ME. No, that's a kid. Don't do that. Don't
That's a
do
new
that.
line, Doc.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me about that phone number.
But yeah, there are treatments for it. Because lying can lead to other psychological issues, and or it can be a sign of other psychological issues.
Yeah, and then you talked about the white lie, because I don't want people to get it twisted. You know, we all have told some little lie at some point. Exactly. You know, you may tell a white lie, like, you know, your partner or your spouse asks you, you know, where you're going in the middle of the night. Oh, I'm going to get some water from the kitchen, when you know you're going to get a piece of cake.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
the doctor asks you on your primary visit, you know, all these questions. Oh, do you drink alcohol? Oh, no, I don't drink, but you had 5 beers yesterday.
Right.
You know, I quit smoking, you know, knowing that you really did know. Yeah, I take my medicine.
Yeah. Oh, we get that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, you know, going into the homes with, you know, what Doc and I do, and looking at, you know, I say, hey, go get your medication bottle, and they go get it, and it's full, and it's dated from 3 months ago.
Right.
You just said you were taking your medication. Well, that's when the stuttering starts. You know, how's your nutrition? Oh, it's good. I'm starting to eat more vegetable, more kale, more broccoli, more spinach, more collard greens, and then you had 3 donuts this morning.
Potato chip bags all over.
Yeah. So at some point, you know, it is interesting though. It's like, why is it just not easier to tell the truth? Why is it, oh, I'm going to the kitchen and get some cake, and it's 2:00 in the morning. What you gonna say? What you gonna do? I'm going to get a piece of cake.
You know, you mentioned something, and I have to give this is kudos to both of you. It's slightly unrelated to what we're talking about, but slightly related because Ms. Athouris, you mentioned it about I took my medication. Several months ago, we had a program on suicide, and I think it was the first program, Ms. Athouris, that you were on, and I took all the information in, and it was almost, I would say, a couple of days later, a former coworker, I found out, was in deep depression and was in very, very deep depression. So because of that, I contacted him and told him that he needed to seek counseling. And he did, and fortunately he listened. And a few days, maybe a couple of weeks later, he was sending out a message that he felt so much better. Great. And that he was so happy that he had that advice to go seek some professional counseling. Awesome. A few weeks ago, he felt so good, he stopped taking the medication.
Oh boy.
Oh, there we go.
And he fell back into, he began having suicidal thoughts, but because of that, he had enough wherewithal to call his professional counselor, who had him admitted immediately into the hospital, immediately. And so now he realizes he's living in a new reality, and he's very happy. He understands that the importance of taking his medication. But I give kudos to you and this program because, you know, I was able to take some of that information I learned from the both of you and impart that to a friend. And you probably saved a life and didn't know it.
So we breathe life into the community, and we
exactly. I have goosebumps. That's what we live for. That warms my heart because that's why we do this. You know, we want to. If we can save one somebody, just one life, then we've made a difference in the community, and that's really what it's all about.
You never know who you're reaching.
Yeah, and that's the number one problem, though. That's the number one problem. Especially with mental health that we deal with, it's I feel great. I don't need to take my medicine. Oh, okay. So you're not hearing voices. You're not doing this. You're not depressed. And no, well, it's because you're taking the medication. As soon as you stop, this cycle is going to start all over again. And it's hard to get them to realize. But I commend you, Norm, for even reaching out to him, because you really saved his life. It was you. Yes. We may have initiated it and then it caused you to, but it was you who reached out and touched him and brought him up by the collar and said, hey, you know, you're important. Go seek help.
We're a mutual admiration society. You guys gave me information.
Wonderful.
I will not take all of the credit. You guys put the information out there about intervention and seeing the signs and trying to turn people on to the right track. You know, it was you guys. So I learned that. I from this program, even though I'm participating, guest host, I learned from every program.
Yes, so, I do too.
Yeah,
I do too.
So back to liars. Okay.
I have this quote that I found I really liked. It's about Pinocchio. The moral of Pinocchio is, the truth sets you free. As long as you are lying, you are dancing on the strings of others. But once you are brave enough to speak your mind, rather than worry about what others would have you say and do, you can be authentic. You can be a real boy. That's what happened to Pinocchio in the end. He became a real boy. Yeah. I thought that was neat.
I think we're losing Shavett.
Oh, I'm here. Can you see me?
It's kind of flashing. It was flashing a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because remember, he was a pup and he wanted to become a real boy, and then in the end, become a real boy in the end. You know.
Is that like the little drag queen who wanted to be a real congressman? Yeah.
It's so lies. You know, he was married to a woman and engaged to a man at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
How do you lie about your mother dying? How do you lie about that?
That's deep.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's
unbelievable.
Crazy world we live in.
But you brought up Herschel. I had forgotten all about Herschel until you brought him up. Yeah. Hopefully he's faded into the woodwork, never to be heard from again.
Well, he won't be lying on a national level now. He's just lying to his family and friends.
Yeah. Exactly.
You flashed that FBI badge.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Amazing.
But the thing with George, it's a serious matter though, with George being a congressman and like I said, being appointed to committees. So they're going to have, the Republicans going to need to do something. I mean, report to the ethics committee or something they're going to have to do.
Well, no, because the Congress no longer is dominated by Democrats. It's dominated by Republicans, and the Speaker of the House is Republican, so he has to approve all that.
Okay.
So he's not going to do that. So we're stuck. And heaven help us if something comes up where there's a decision has to be made about going to war, because acts of war have to be approved by Congress. And we're going to be in a bad place. I mean, now, you know, you have people talking about doing away or limiting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. These are people who are election deniers and liars. This is important. because nearly everybody depends on Social Security. And when you have people who have problems with the truth, threatening to take away your Social Security or restricting it, I think they want to up the age now to set. Some people are talking about upping the age to 70.
Wow.
It's problematic.
Very.
It's problematic.
Yeah.
So I have a question, like, can the constituents in Santos's division, can they initiate a recall from
No.
There's no such thing? You can't do a recall?
They do recalls in, I know California has it for state and local officials.
But for Congress, you can't.
Correct.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they can be sanctioned in Congress, and if they get enough votes, they can be thrown out. But that's like unrealistic to expect, because that's when you get into politics.
Right.
And
they have no power to do anything like that, though.
Yeah, so but they know that in Santos's case, that if they throw him out, a Democrat's going to replace him. So that's the fear. So this is where national security is on the back burner.
Wow.
It's scary, it's sad, and but anyway.
The term is 2 years for the term? Is it 2 years?
2 years.
I think it's 2.
Yes. Yeah, 2 years. So they get another shot at the apple, but he can do a lot of damage in 2 years. He can do a lot of damage. I mean, look at the people who died. We forget about this because Donald Trump said COVID-19 was no big thing.
Right.
Look at, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people died because they listened to him and believed. And there are people who are still dying because they still believe it. Even these at the funeral for this Diamond or whatever her name is, they were talking about the vaccines and basically disparaging the whole thing about taking vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. These are sick people, and these are people who are molding the thoughts and what goes on in this country. And when you have people who are compulsive or pathological liars who are in here making decisions, it's really, really scary.
Someone commented that politicians and lawyers lie.
Yeah, and you know, and that was George Santos' excuse at the beginning, because he said they all lie. Well, if that's true, and I don't believe that it's true, but if that's true, that's a reflection on us. And again, you know, I go back to that old saying that people don't get the government they want, they get the government they deserve. If that is us, that we believe, okay, well, he lies, they all lie, so I'm gonna vote for him anyway. No, because they're honest people out here. They're honest people. I mean, I'm available. You know? Come on. I'm available. I'm willing.
Wow. Well, you know, it starts with the leadership, you know.
Yeah.
And him being president as a leader of the country, people just, you know, gravitated to, okay, I'm just going to believe him because he's the president. But, you know, even when it first came out, I was telling all of my family members, listen, it's your life. You know, you can, you know, believe what you want to believe, but you won't hurt. It's better to wear a mask and to protect yourself as we're going through and figuring this thing out versus going out and not wearing one, especially when you're in crowds of people. Don't test it out on you. You know, use your brain, use your mind here. So I said, for our family, we're going to wear masks anyway, even though they're saying, oh, it's okay, you don't have to wear a mask. And I told my husband, I said, no, we're not listening to them. We're going to wear masks to protect ourselves. And sure enough, now after all these people have died, wear a mask.
Yeah, death is permanent. You don't get a second go round.
Exactly.
Someone asked the question, what's the main reason for lying? I don't know if they're talking about the vaccine or what's the question. So if whoever asked that question, if you can clarify what you're referring to, it says, what is the main reason for lying?
Well, it goes back to some of the pathological lying versus other types of lying. If I can just read this out. You have a white liar who tells untruths to protect their own feelings. You have the occasional liar who lies at times to make themselves look good or to get their needs met. You have the habitual liar who has fallen into the habit of lying because it feels easier or more convenient than telling the truth.
Right.
Then there's the compulsive liar who gets high when they get away from, and when they get away from lying, it's when they get away with lying because it's similar to getting like other addictions. And you have the prolific liar. There are all kinds. I know, but there's many kinds of liars.
I know, it's like
Prolific.
10 different ones.
Yes. They're out there. Bottom line is, I mean, how do we deal with them? There's some do's and don'ts of how to deal with pathological liars. Don't expect them to admit to a lie. Don't take it personally. Don't consider eye contact as a sign that someone is telling the truth. Don't lose your temper. Do trust yourself and your reality. Do pay attention to the person's actions and get a picture of who they are. Do set boundaries around what you are willing to tolerate in the relationship. And do encourage them to try therapy in order to learn more about themselves and why they feel driven to lie. And consider therapy for yourself as well to learn how to set healthy boundaries and stay grounded within your own truth.
I think that's good.
All that's important.
Somebody asked, is it okay to lie to protect someone?
Well, that's part of that convenience. That's one of those. Yeah. We all do that.
Yeah. I mean, and then it starts in early childhood too, to answer the question. It stems all the way from early childhood where it's used as a coping mechanism for whatever the situation is for the child. So it really starts kind of early.
Who went in that cookie jar? It wasn't me.
No, and then I remember my son when we have 7 boys together, and one of our sons when he was around 1.5, or so, and I'm standing in the kitchen and I see a puddle start at his feet and it's going out, and I said, "What are you doing?" "Nothing." "Well, what's on your feet?" "Water." "Who wastes water?" "Daddy." And as soon as the puddle just getting bigger and bigger, and I see your pants wet and it's getting bigger.
Oh my gosh.
I know I'm not supposed to say this on air, but I whipped his little behind and I said, "You are lying. You're peeing on yourself. Your daddy is not even here. How did he waste water?" It starts early.
Yeah, it does. It does. And again, when you put in place boundaries, that's what we're talking about. Boundaries, and let the child know that no, this is not acceptable.
Right.
That's part of the learning process. Part of the learning process.
Right.
And we talked about the kid with the gun. Same thing, part of the learning process. So
So, and you do, like we were saying earlier, you can call them out on their lies, but stay calm, do it in a certain fashion so that it doesn't become confrontational. But as a friend of that person, you want to kind of let them know that, hey, I'm realizing that this is not the truth. And I'm trying to help you because, when we're in social settings, other people probably notice it too. And I'm just wanting to bring it out to you, about the lies or not telling the truth, and then talk to them about it. But if it gets confrontational, just kind of walk away from it. Don't get into debates with them.
Exactly.
It's an illness that they have. It's for pathological liars and all these different liars. It's something that's not an easy fix overnight.
Exactly.
Yep.
Just advise them to seek help for it.
Exactly.
Well, doctor, you're going to have to come up with another interesting topic for your next program. This was.
Yeah, I thought this would be interesting. I thought this would be interesting. Yeah, because every day seeing, the lies and fabrications of Santos. I said, let's look into that and see what's behind lying. Yeah. So.
Yeah, this was an education for us all.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely was.
Okay, so we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks and come up with something interesting too, because I like to make it, interesting and something, relatable. I mean, because I thought about, all the shootings in California. I was feeling too burned out about that. I didn't even want to go there with all the shootings.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Covered that topic
Yeah.
so many times. Yeah.
Well, but there we're going to find that the root cause is some mental disorders that people were ignoring,
Mm-hmm.
especially the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So.
The warning signs were out there.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, listening audience, and to our co-host. This has been a wonderful show. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Have a great week and have a very blessed week. Thank you.